If you've been massively struggling to clear your hips in the downswing to the point where you think you as an individual just aren't capable of getting that clearing movement of your hips, maybe you think you're not athletic enough, not flexible enough, I'm going to tell you here that is absolute nonsense. Myself, I'm a disabled golfer with cerebral palsy that affects my left side, which tightens up the muscles. So if anyone shouldn't be able to clear the hips, it should be me. But look here, this is me hitting the ball, clearing the hips just fine, because this has more to do with your golf swing than it does about your athleticism. So let's get into the 5 main reasons of why in your golf swing you cannot clear your hips. And of course, we're going to do a fix for each one of those too. So number 1, your setup sucks. It's terrible. That's where I'll see so many golfers with a setup like this. That's where they might have a ton of lower back extension, this big curve, or they will have their armpits dead straight in front of their toes. Now, if you set up like that, you are shooting yourself in the foot for pretty much doing most things successfully in the golf swing. So that's where you set up and how your body is orientated is going to affect how it moves dynamically. So why this setup is so terrible for your golf swing is because as soon as you start to turn, it's going to force the weight onto your toes. That's because the mass of your upper body is displaced in front of your lower body. So that means, of course, you could just stand there and do this. Where's your weight going to go? It's going to go in your toes. The same thing will happen in the golf swing. So that means these players will be turning back, their weight's going to go into their toes, and then from there they've got 2 options. They can either stay on their toes, try to turn, but they're probably going to fall over forwards. Actually, they've got 3 options. I'll say what the last one is, which is not pleasant. So the second one, which I see a ton for players, they will start their downswing and they'll immediately stand their body up, because that's their body's attempt to get their pressure going more back into an appropriate part of their foot. So then you won't be, of course, falling over. That's where it's a balancing game from here. But of course, you'll be then early extending and not opening up your hips. It'd be absolutely terrible. The third one is you'll be going to the emergency room, because if you manage to rotate from this posture, somehow still get it there, it is going to fry and destroy your back. Think of Jason Day, for example. Jason Day had very much a posture, whereas like that classic hip hinge athletic posture. And then what happened to him from there? He still managed to get great turn and move through the golf ball, but it fried and destroyed his back. What has he done now? He's changed his setup and he's changed a couple other things to make it easier for him, for his body. So do not do that. And what I do want to see you do instead as the fix, I want to see you do what we call old man posture. So even though this is called something, funny like that, a lot of people think I want to stand athletically. I don't want to stand like an old man. But that's where old man posture doesn't really make you look all too different from what a good posture is. So we want, instead of the armpits being dead straight in front of the toes, we want the armpits being on the balls of the feet. So what does that mean? Pelvis has to be tucked underneath you more. You have to have a straighter lower back, which your lower back is going to be thanking you a lot for doing that. And then what we have from there, tiny little bit bend of the knees, only slight. And there we go. So just a gradual round up to the upper back there. That's going to get armpits over those balls of the feet, which is then going to promote you to, as you turn, to be able to get your weight going into your heel, so your right heel rather than your toes, because now your upper body, the mass of it is over the mass of your lower body. And then we can have the option to stay back, turn and clear. So a little procedure to go through to get this is to stand up pretty much dead straight with a very slight bend in your knees, very slight, and just like you're talking to someone in front of you. Then grab the club and then get the club and put it behind the golf ball via just relaxing your mid and upper back. Don't do anything with your hips, don't do anything with your lower back. There we go. Now we're in that posture, armpits are over the balls of the feet, I'm in a good spot. Doesn't look that crazy, does it? Doesn't look too much like an old man, does it? But it is more in that kind of rounded posture. That's where we see all the greats set up like. So if you feel like you're too close from there, just take a little shuffle back, like I do with long arms, and then let's have a look and see how we do after that. Absolutely, clear the hips, absolutely great. Compared to, let's do this one. Here we go, this already feels uncomfortable. So my body tried, but as you can see, not great at all compared to the last one. So let's get into the second reason. So second reason here is your club face. So your club face and what it does in your golf swing is, other than your setup fundamentals, the most important thing in the swing. You always want to be looking at that club face. So this is where if your club face is either too open, to where the toe of the club, either pointing up to the sky, or too closed, club face pointing down towards the ground, at shaft parallel, just for example, those are both going to be terrible for your rotation of your hips. Let's say too open for our first one here. So if that club face is too open, rolling open there, toe of the club either pointing up or behind there. Now, your body is going to prioritize squaring up that club face. So your body, to be able to do that, has to quickly either early release or very quickly roll release through there. What is your body not going to do from that? It's not going to rotate. Because when you rotate, what does that do? Rotation gives you shaft lean as a byproduct. As soon as you turn more, you're going to get a little bit more lean on the shaft. What does that do to the club face? That opens it a little bit. So if you have got an open club face already, you best believe you are not going to rotate going through the golf ball, and you're not going to clear your hips. So let's flare this club face open and see what happens to my body. So I felt instinctively a lot of hand release there going through there. My body had to slow down. Why your body absolutely has to slow down also, like we said, the club face will start to open more. But of course you want to hit the ball to your target. We've always got to remember, you're trying to hit the ball to your target. So ever wonder why your practice swing is a lot better than your normal swing? It's because your practice swing, there's no target in the way. So that's why your normal swing with the golf ball always looks worse, because it's trying to do things to help you hit the ball to the target. If you had let's say a ball in the way with a practice swing, let's say you try to clear those hips with a very open club face and you think, oh, that one felt great. Why can't I do that on the golf ball? Thank God you didn't do it at the golf ball, because that golf club at impact would have been hugely open. So that's where your body is always trying to counteract, let's say, to help you hit the ball to target. It's trying to make up for it. So closed club face, pointing too much down towards the ground. What's that going to do to you? Now, a lot of people would think, okay, this definitely will make you rotate, because, of course, what did I just say? Shaft lean opens the face. But if you are going to produce so much shaft lean to open this face up to point to target, your name must be Dustin Johnson, because you would have to rotate so much that it is absolutely giving you so much shaft lean that the club is now square to target. But to make that work, you need a lot of club head speed also, which is why your name must be Dustin Johnson, because then you've got to create enough ball speed to get some lift on the shot. The more ball speed you get, the more lift and launch you're going to actually get on your shot there. But the regular amateur golfer is not going to do that. So that is where what the amateur golfer will do with that really strong club face, they will find another way to get it to square, and that will not be rotation. That will be standing the body up to raise the hands to open the face. When the hands raise up, the face will open. That is the more preferred mechanism most amateur golfers will use. So what is that? Early extension to get it really shut. Let me do it with a mega strong grip, and let's see how I do it. So as we can see there, big standing up move to even remotely get that ball started in the middle of that net. So we don't want it really strong. We don't want it really, let's say, open. So we don't want closed, we don't want open. We want in the middle. So what's the middle? That is having the club face matching spine angle. That's what we want, club face matching spine angle. So that means club face is matching the arc. A lot of people misinterpret square face as square to the target. That is not what a square face is. A square face is square to the swing arc. So that's where we need that club face to trace that arc. And that means that shaft parallel to the ground, for our example here, that is matching the spine. So that means then we can turn nicely. We're not going to produce so much shaft lean for the vast majority of all golfers where we're going to open the face too much. Your face is still going to be nice and square. You can just continue to turn through. So nice square face is what we want to be able to hit and really rotate those hips nicely. But okay, how do we go and do that? What is the main fix for this? The simple stuff. Make sure your grip isn't crazy. So that's where having, around the spectrum of a square grip, roughly 2.5 knuckles on that left hand for nice and neutral is where you would want to go. So left hand, 2.5 knuckles, right hand there, line between thumb and the meat of your hand, right armpit area. That's where we would want you, because that's going to give most players on the planet a nice square club face. So if we can improve that grip, that club face is going to be nice and square. And that's going to help us a ton to be able to open up their hips. Don't think you're a golfer who can get away with a very, very strong grip. I made a video not so long ago about the damages that strong grip can do to your golf swing. Again, if you're going to have a very weak grip, you've got to make sure you're doing stuff to your wrist angles to be able to help it. Don't make golf harder than it needs to be. Just make your grip nice and neutral. So the third reason of why you can't clear your hips is because you have no hip depth. in your backswing. So what is that? What is hip depth? So that is where with your right hip, as soon as you start to move back, it starts to move more forward. Now, this is very tied into people who have the terrible posture, but a lot of guys there who aren't getting the weight distributing into their feet properly, they'll go up to the top of their swing. And if you had, let's say, a line here, so let me draw a line right there on my pelvis, they might have the slightest movement of those hips going forward, where they might think, oh, that's nothing. That's just a tiny bit of movement forward of the hips. Wrong. That is a massive thing in the golf swing. If those hips even remotely move forward in that backswing, losing hip depth, you are going to continue to move them forward in the downswing. Got to remember, even though we like to view golf swing in different segments, whether that's backswing and downswing, or even, let's say, segmented so much to the P system, in reality, it is one movement. It is one swing. So if you are getting up to the top of your swing and you are moving those hips forward, what are you going to continue to do in the downswing? Because it's one fluid movement. They're going to continue to move forward. They're not going to start moving towards the golf ball and think, oh, wait, the downswing's starting now. I've got to then move them back. It's not going to happen like that. They're just going to continually move forward. This will be the guys that would hit shanks quite a lot when they're trying to clear their hips. So they'll be moving those hips forward, and then forward again. Weight all goes into the toes. Early extension, nasty, nasty stuff. It'll be impossible for you to clear your hips. This is so many people who send in lessons for me on Skillist. They'll send in their first lesson thinking they're just not capable of rotating their hips at all, thinking they're an anomaly with their hip mobility, and see them every time moving the hips forward. And all we do, get those hips going back, and boom, straight away, they've started to clear the hips. So such an important thing. What we want to happen here, we want this right hip to go back. We want this to happen. It's like someone's grabbing that right trouser pocket and pulling it backwards. If we can get that movement, we're going to prime ourselves to keep those hips back. Remember, golf swing is one fluid movement. If we can prime those hips to stay back in that backswing, right hip going back, gaining hip depth. Again, if I've got that line drawn here, you can see I could even get to the point where my right hip is going past that line, breaking it. That's going to make it so easier for the left hip to then go back. That's going to make hip rotation really, really easy. So I did this video recently about Tiger Woods with his practice method he was doing at the Masters. He was really getting that right hip back and then left hip back. And it is a thing that really gets that rotation into your hips like that. Even if you're, let's say, wanting to start working on hip rotation, this is a great one. What's a drill we can do? So here's the first drill of the video, the classic. So I've been bringing this back with a resurgence onto the channel. It's been a good almost 6-month break of this drill, but it's the best drill out there, that's for certain, the chair drill. So this is the best one to work on for hip depth, because what you want to do is push it back with your right hip in the backswing and then back with your left hip in the downswing. That simple. Don't just try to keep your pelvis on the chair. That's going to do nothing for you. You want to really push it back and then push it back. So it's like you're trying to push it as far away from you as you can in both backswing and downswing. Let's have a go here. And there we go. You could almost see I was pushing back so much, I had a little Scotty Scheffler move with my right foot. So absolutely brilliant one to do. You need hip depth. If you don't, you're not going to clear the hips. It's that simple. So number 4 is another depth thing in the golf swing, but this time your arms. So this is where I'll see so many golfers get up to the top of their swing and their hands and arms will just raise straight up. They're just picking them up. So then from there, again, if they rotate and clear their hips, the club's now going to throw out in front. The more upward your hands go in that backswing, the more they are going to go out in front of you in the downswing. So the more you rotate the hips, the more it forces the club more out. That's going to chop across it. You're going to hit these horrible out to win swings if you do manage to clear your hips. But most golfers won't. Why they won't clear their hips from that position at the top is because if they clear their hips again, the club's going to fly out. So if they want to get the ball going to target, they've got to slow down all rotation. So if you're up here, rotation has to stop to get the hands and arms to drop. When rotation isn't present in the swing, hands and arms are just going to go straight down. That's what you see golfers do. And they'll be getting up there, no rotation, hands dropping. They'll be thinking, God, I'm just not flexible enough to be able to do this. How can I get that into the swing? It's their top of the backswing position. So what they need to do, they need to get those hands and arms going more around them. I preferably like to see people with that left arm covering the shoulder plane here. So covering that view of that right shoulder. Because then when they clear the hips, the club's then going to fall on path really nicely and really easily. So it's going to unlock the key to be able to do this, which is just what everything really is here. It's unlocking the door to be able to rotate and clear the hips. So if I can get these arms a little bit more around me with the left arm covering my shoulder plane, it's going to be way easier to clear the hips, because then I can then present a shot that will go to target when I do so. But it's not just as simple as trying to bring the hands and arms around you. Absolutely not. So this is where we're going to use a training aid that I really like for this, in conjunction with a good feel. So the training aid here is one you guys have seen on the channel quite a bit, and it is my favorite training aid out there, and that is the swing plate. Now, for a lot of the guys here who are watching who have lessons with me on Skillist, they know how much I like this training aid for a lot of things, and they know how much it's helped their own golf swing. So if we just get something like the swing plate, which is a link in the video description to get a discount on this with the extension pole attachment, we bring this up and out like so. If we have it just to where it's just a little bit above our shoulder plane, and you can see it's about hands distance, outstretched hands distance away from my right shoulder, then what I want to do, I want to make sure I'm rotating my body, getting good rotation. Rotation is what brings those hands and arms around you. That's the proper way to get good depth of your hands, not dragging it. Don't want to drag, you want to rotate in that backswing. And then if I'm just swinging underneath this stick, I'm going to have great depth at the top. So this is when I had a little bit of a problem in my golf swing with depth, as I really did for a good considerable amount of time. This was what did it for me. Now, this wasn't actually invented at that point. I was working on this in my own golf swing. I just used a golf bag with an alignment stick propped out of it, which was very annoying because if there was a gust of wind, the alignment stick would fall on you. So that's where that won't happen. Of course, here in Scotland, there's plenty of gusts of wind, that's for certain. You can probably see it with the net going all over the place. And that's where this is still standing. So absolutely great. Get good turn, swing underneath this, and that will be brilliant for your golf swing and getting more depth. Again, there's a link in the description for it, but you need hand depth and left arm depth. So number 5, the last one here, and that is your hip tilt, the forgotten part of the hip movement in the golf swing. So what we see so many people do, they'll be getting up to, let's say, top of their swing, absolutely great. Everything we talked about could be brilliant. But then what do they want to do? They want to then bump the hips. They've been told so often by instructors that haven't learned anything since their PGA exams in the 90s that you have to bump your hips to the left. So when you bump your hips to the left and then try and turn, I'll tell you a secret here, you're not going to turn after you do it, because you are going to lift up the left hip, which is losing your hip tilt. And then from there, once you've lost your hip tilt, you're going to see how the upper body is naturally going to fall away from you behind there. So then it's incredibly difficult to be able to turn, almost impossible. From a pure body pain standpoint, your body won't want to do it, because if you bump with the left hip going up and then you try to turn, that is so much tension that is going into that really contorted lower spine. It just hurts demonstrating it, to be perfectly honest, and I have no back issues. So that is where, if we do that, it's not going to work. Let me try and demonstrate one. I'll try my best to clear the hips with bumping my left hip up. And I just chunked it because my upper body fell backwards and I felt a big roll release, so then I know my body wasn't turning. We don't want the left hip going up. We want the left hip staying down. Remember, golf swing is a movement with a ball. You're swinging rotationally onto a ball that is on the ground. If the ball's on the ground, that's where we need to stay tilted to the ball. We need that lead side to be lower than the right. We want the left side to be lower than the right. And then with the left side being lower than the right, we want to maintain that for 3/4 of the downswing. When we get to shaft parallel, that's when the left side extends. That's when the left hip goes back up again. That's via left side extension, not trying to do it. And that's going to then make you successfully rotate. If the ball's coming at you in the air, yeah, sure, you could have that left hip up because the ball's airborne. Ball's on the ground, you need to keep your tilt. So we need that left side to stay down and then turn. And that's really going to help you hugely for getting that better hip rotation going through there. So a good little drill to do is grabbing an alignment stick. Now, what we do, put it through our belt loops. This is one, again, a lot of people have seen on the channel before because it's good. That's why we don't need to do loads of different drills all the time. We just need to do the ones that work for a specific movement. So that's where, if we can get this stick to go down, stay pointing down and disappear around, we're getting the tilt. That's going to get us the turn. So get the stick to go down and around and disappear immediately around you. And that's going to be great to get you rotating and clearing the hips. Okay, so there are the 5 reasons to why you can't clear your hips in the downswing. If you make sure that all those are good, you're going to be clearing those hips. If you're still struggling after that, there's a link in the description for my online coaching and also a course to get the ultimate guide to rotation in the downswing, which will tell you absolutely everything about rotation you could possibly ever imagine, how to get into your swing will be in there also. But again, one-to-one lessons are also with me down there on Skillist. So if you enjoyed the video, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.